All right. Well, according to my clock, it is the top of the hour, so I want to welcome you onto tonight's presentation, The Rental Cash Flow Revolution, How to Avoid the Three Biggest Landmines Canadian Real Estate Investors Face that keep them struggling with underperforming properties and puny profits. Again, my name is Dave Dubois, and I'm your host for the event this evening. I want to welcome you. And seeing that you're on this call, I know you're interested in real estate investing as a way to create wealth and the lifestyle that you want. So let me ask you a question. How would you like to create that wealth and lifestyle? Let's take a look at an example of this. If you had a job and your boss gave you the quote-unquote opportunity to invest $75,000 in his company, but here's the deal. You're going to have to work much longer hours. So say you're working a 40-hour week now, you're going to have to probably go to 60 hours a week. You're going to have to start dealing with customers who really don't like you very much. Not only that, but he's going to ask you to come up with cash to cover shortfalls when business is down. And when things are going all right for you, you might be making an extra $50, maybe $75 a month. So if your boss came to you with that quote-unquote opportunity, what would you tell them? First of all, let's see, put up your hand if you like that idea. So we're going to try and make this interactive. So you've got a little hand putter upper thing there. You can click on that to raise your hand. So if you like that idea of that business opportunity, put up your hand. All right, let's see if we got any hands going up there. If you like that idea. Oh, I see one person's hand went up. So I'll have to give you a little virtual slap. That means you either didn't understand the question or maybe you're in the wrong place. But again, if a boss came to you with that kind of business opportunity to work more, longer hours, have to come up with cash for shortfalls, all to make an extra 50 to 75 bucks a month, you'd probably say no, right? However, real estate investors do this to themselves all the time. They're putting their money, their time, and basically their entire life energy at risk with long-term buy and hold real estate investments. They feel lucky if they eke out $50 a month in net cash flow, and that's with all the work of risk of buying a property, finding a tenant, managing and maintaining the property and the tenant, all in the hopes that someday you're either going to have the property increase radically in value through appreciation, and that way they can cash out, or just over time and attrition, it pays off the mortgage so they have more cash flow for their troubles. All of that for all that work. I'm going to show you in the next 90 minutes what I see the biggest blunders are that Canadian real estate investors are making over and over and over again. Now, this isn't just newbies. This is also seasoned and experienced real estate investors. So this applies to you whether you are just getting into real estate investing, just starting to dip your toes into it, or just even thinking about it, or if you're a novice and you've got a couple of properties under your belt, you're just getting started, or even if you're an old-time, very experienced real estate investor, you're going to pick up some great tips and strategies on tonight's class. I'm going to also give you some really good tips and ideas and strategies you can put to use right away, even if you've got your portfolio up and running, some things that you can turn things around with, and if you're just getting started, ideas to start doing right away as you're building up your portfolio. So I want to encourage you to have a pen and paper handy to take some notes with. But with that said, I've got an unadvertised bonus for you for being on the call live tonight. So you don't have to worry too much about taking all these crazy notes. I'm going to make available all of the slides from tonight's presentation. When you stay until the end of the show, I'll tell you how to get a PDF copy of the entire slideshow. And like you can see in the picture there, I've even got little spaces beside each slide so you can write down your notes about that. That way you can relax and enjoy the presentation. You can take a few little notes as you're going along, but you don't have to worry about getting every single detail because you can get the slides at the end of the presentation. And that is a reward for being on the call live. So again, if I haven't had the pleasure of meeting you yet, or you haven't been on one of my webinars before, my name's Dave Dubois, and again, we've got a few new people coming on just in the last few minutes. I want to welcome you to the presentation, The Rental Cash Flow Revolution, How to Avoid the Three Biggest Landmines Canadian Real Estate Investors Face that keep them struggling with underperforming properties and puny profits. And I want to thank you very much for investing your precious time and energy to be here tonight. Especially in the summertime, I know there are a lot of other temptations out there. However, I'm also going to say you've made a very, very wise decision, and I promise you it's going to be well worth your time and your energy. So thanks for being here. Just a few little technical notes here. We've got an option here for you to ask questions. I might not have time to answer specific questions about the content during the call tonight. I want to respect your time and get through it in a timely fashion. If you're having technical issues, please go ahead and type any questions like that you might have in. And my good man, Wagner Cardozo, who's my right-hand tech guy, will help you out with that. All right, let's jump in and get going because I'm excited about this. If you hear me with a bit of a scratchy throat, that's because I just finished 3 days of intensive training at our Rent-Own Profit Summit that just wrapped up yesterday afternoon on Sunday. That was 3 solid days of talking all about rent-own stuff and creative real estate investing with a whole bunch of people, 50 people that came to Kamloops to learn all about that. So forgive me if my voice sounds a little bit scratchy. And again, I want to congratulate you for taking the action to be on the presentation tonight. If I was face-to-face with you, I'd give you a high five. I can't do that, so let's do a virtual high five. Don't do it too hard, but you can give your screen a little high five and congratulate yourself. Like my favorite Woody Allen saying is 80% of success is just showing up, and you have shown up, so good for you. Here's what we're going to cover in today's presentation. Again, the 3 biggest landmines I see people coming up against time after time after time, and more importantly, how to avoid these landmines in the first place, or if you find that you're actually in the middle of one of these, how to turn it around. And then also, how to really create the lifestyle and freedom from real estate investing that you truly want. This is why most people get into real estate investing in the first place, and if you're a seasoned investor, it's taking you down a trip down memory lane to when you first got started and reigniting that spark as to why you got into this business in the first place. All right, key to success is keeping commitments and follow through. So you've enrolled in this program, you've signed up for this, you're on the call. Commit to stay until the very end. It's very important that you get all of this information. I'm also going to encourage you to really focus on the presentation tonight. There's a temptation when we're online to try and multitask. So some people are watching a webinar and trying to do Facebook at the same time, or answer emails, or watch YouTube videos, or all sorts of different things. I suggest if you want to get the most out of the presentation, turn off the distraction. Resist the urge to check your Facebook account, to tweet, to Twitter, to do whatever all that stuff is. The more you focus, the more you're going to get out of this class, all right? So since we're going to spend a little time together, I want to let you know a little bit about myself and what qualifies me to talk with you tonight, and give you a context as to why you should even listen to me. So you could say that real estate investing is in my blood. I actually made my first financial investment in real estate when I was at the tender age of 12 years old. And there's a picture of me around 10 or 11. That was the closest thing to 12 I could find. And the deal was my big brother Dan, who's 13 years older than I am, so he was about 25 at the time, and my mother were in a partnership to build a duplex in my hometown of Taylor, British Columbia, which is just outside of Fort St. John. So I saw that they were all excited about this and doing that, so I had $200 burning a hole in my pocket, which was a heck of a lot of money for a 12-year-old way back when, in the olden days. So I begged and pleaded if I could invest with them, and they did. They let me invest with them, and they affectionately said my part of the property was the garbage stoop. So that was my start with real estate investing at 12. Like I say, I was born and raised near Fort St. John in northeastern British Columbia. So I'm kind of a redneck from up north, a very, very small town. Actually, Taylor, BC, which is claimed to fame now, is that CBC television did a program called Village on a Diet. And if you ever saw that, that is my hometown. So we're famous for having chubby people in it. Okay, I went to high school there, did very, very poorly, not very well in high school. I was a pretty lazy student. I wanted to go to university, so I actually had to take a year at community college before they let me in UBC, and I graduated with a basically asinine degree in psychology. Pretty useless degree. especially considering the fact that my grade point average is about 2.4 out of a total of 4 possible. So not a stellar student. Graduated in 1990, and I really didn't have anything holding me in Canada. I didn't have any great job opportunities. If you're old enough to remember back to 1990 and what the economy was like, it was pretty flat. So I decided, what the heck, I'll go see a bit of the world, and I went down and I started traveling through Mexico and Central America, and I landed in Costa Rica, fell in love with the country, and decided to settle down there. And I lived there for 10 years, started my own business, language training company, and that's actually when I actually started doing a few more deals, my first creative deals. I actually bought and flipped 2 foreclosure properties, and I had a money partner putting up all the cash to do these deals, and we would split the net profits 50-50 after he got paid back his principal. That worked well for those 2 little deals. And I also bought my office that I had in Costa Rica creatively as well. It was another foreclosure deal. So started getting it unknowingly, because I didn't have any training or education about it, unknowingly getting involved in creative deals, even down in Latin America, in Costa Rica. Moved back to Canada in 2003, and some people know me because I worked with Canadian rich dad Darren Weeks. I helped him between starting about 2006, helped him grow his fast-track group of companies up to the Profit 100 list of fastest-growing companies in Canada. So a lot of fun with that, and definitely a phenomenal experience, and Darren is a phenomenal speaker and an investor as well. I've had the pleasure of training thousands of Canadian real estate investors over the years. Shared the stage with people like Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad himself, the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, his Rich Dad advisor Ken McElroy, author of the ABCs of Real Estate Investing, Big George Foreman, the heavyweight boxing champion of the world, the lean, mean grilling machine guy, billionaire Bill Bartman, Robert Herjavec, and Arlene Dickinson from Dragon's Den, amongst others. Wrote my first real estate book with Ken Beaton called Creative Real Estate Investing for Canadians. Ken is one of the most creative and successful real estate investors I know. He's got close to 120 doors in his portfolio. And most recently, my newest book is Rent to Own Profits for Canadians, which I wrote with my big brother Dan Dubois, another professional real estate investor based in Halifax. I'm blessed with a beautiful, healthy family. We live in a nice house. We drive nice vehicles. We travel at least 6 weeks a year. My wife and my kids, my wife's from Costa Rica and my kids were both born there, so we travel a fair bit. And I'm happy to say that I'm able to do what I want, when I want, and how I want to do this. And that's a picture of us at a cruise that we just went on in the Caribbean just a few months ago. Now, I'm not telling you this to brag. I'm just giving you a little bit of background because it definitely has not always been just pure sunshine in my life. That's for sure. In fact, for a while, it really sucked. So if you remember, I lived in Costa Rica for 10 years. Back in 2003, my wife and I decided that we should move back to Canada. Why? A lot of people say, Dave, you're a Canadian guy, you're living down in Costa Rica, why the heck would you move back to Canada? And especially, why the heck would you move to Kamloops, BC in Canada? Well, first of all, Kamloops is a very nice town. We moved back to Canada because basically you don't realize what you've got till you don't have it anymore. So as wonderful as Costa Rica is, there are many things that Canada has that just aren't available anywhere else in the world. The big thing for us was security. So being a pasty-faced white guy, whether I had money or not, there was the appearance that I had money. And Costa Rica is quite a safe country, but there still are security issues. So I was much more likely to get kidnapped or my family get kidnapped, held for ransom down there than in Kamloops. So for that and for the fact that we wanted our kids to get educated in Canada, we moved back in 2003. So I actually had to start all over again from scratch. I was like a brand new immigrant into my own country. I came back with basically very little money, zero credit. I left Canada when I was 21 years old. I came back when I was basically 35, just about 35 years old. So I had zero credit established. And brand new city. I had no family, no friends here, nothing, so no contacts where I was getting started. And I decided to move to town a few months before my wife and kids did. So I came to kind of get settled down, find us a place to live. And for the first month, month and a half, I actually lived in a boarding house with a few other folks, paying for room and board while I was getting settled in. And because I'd owned my own house, my own office in Costa Rica, I naively, I look back, I kind of chuckle at it, I cringe actually, I naively thought it would be easy to get financing to buy my own home in Canada. So I traveled down to my local bank, one of the big fives, and made an appointment with the branch manager to talk about getting a loan. So I went in there, told him about all my great plans about getting involved in real estate investing and this and all that kind of stuff, and he listened to me very politely and then informed me in no uncertain terms that there was no way they would be giving me a mortgage anytime soon, and that I should come back in a few years if my business venture made it off the ground and if I had a credit rating that even showed up on the radar. I tell you, I left that bank with my tail between my legs. I don't know if he laughed like that, but I could kind of tell he was snickering when I left the building, and I felt really bad. I was humiliated. I felt stupid. I really felt like a failure. It was a bad time. So I looked around and I found a decent place that I could rent, that I could afford to rent. So it was like a half duplex in a not so great part of town. I bought a old minivan, Dodge Caravan minivan, and that was my vehicle. And I got some furniture from the Salvation Army, bought that used furniture. That's what I put in the house. And then I went and got my wife and my kids and brought them to our brand new home. Now, you got to understand, I've been in business for 10 years in Costa Rica. Things were going reasonably well there. I developed a pretty successful company. We're living a nice lifestyle. We had a nice home. We had a full-time live-in maid, part-time gardener, living in the tropics. Needless to say, this was a huge shock to the system for my poor wife, Susie. It was not a happy time, that beginning, that's for sure. So I'd seen a late-night TV infomercial, How to Get Rich in Real Estate, from somebody south of the border, Mr. Ron LeGrand, actually. And I went and I bought this program, How to Get Rich in Real Estate, no money down type thing. And I jumped in with that and ended up investing over $10,000 in different real estate courses and programs. Now, for most of that, I had to, what I call, Canadianize it to make it work up here. So a lot of trial and effort. That was for sure, trial and error as well. And at the beginning, I made a lot of mistakes. And I ended up going into a lot of debt, not only trying to make things work with my business, but also to try and keep up appearances. So I'd moved my wife and my family to Canada. I didn't want to seem like a failure in my wife's eyes. So I was busy spending up a storm, because they did, coincidentally, they wouldn't give me a mortgage very easily, but credit card companies were throwing cards at me left, right, and center. So I had lots of credit cards I could use, and use them I did. Excuse me for a sip of water there. I can remember laying awake at night worrying about what would happen if my wife discovered my credit card bills, because I was doing that old trick of juggling to pay one credit card off with another, increasing balances here so I could grab some money to pay down the other one. It was a disaster. It really, really sucked, especially at 19, 22, 24% interest. With all that said, I did get my real estate investing business up and going, that creative real estate investing business. I was able to do 18 flips in about 18 months, and after just 2 years back in Canada, I was able to buy my wife the exact house she wanted, in the exact area of town she wanted, and I did it creatively with owner financing. Yes. Screw it to the banks, right? Well, I actually did get some bank financing too, but it was a creative deal with owner financing to help with the down payment. So we made it happen, got into a lovely home. So the first picture up there on the left, that was the half duplex we were in. The bottom one on the right, that's the home that we moved into, the home of my wife's dreams. All right. And again, getting back to that, that's about the time that I met Canadian Rich Dad Darren Weeks, and I stopped doing the real estate investing for a while, started working with him full-time, with the marketing and starting an educational company now called Canadian Profits while I was helping Darren grow his companies. Got actively back into real estate investing in 2010, and over the last few years I've trained literally thousands of people from coast to coast across Canada all about creative and rent-to-own real estate investing. All right, but that's definitely enough about me. Let's talk about you. What's in it for you to be on tonight's presentation? Again, we're going to be covering the 3 biggest landmines, and more importantly, how to avoid or turn them around if you're already in the middle of them, and how to really create the lifestyle and freedom you want from real estate investing. Just a reminder, because we've had a few more people come on the call since I started, don't worry too much about taking notes. Do take a few notes, but I'm going to show you how at the end of the call to get all of tonight's slides sent to you as a PDF. I've divided them up, created handouts like that, so it'll be just like you see on the screen there. You've got the slide, and then you've got some spaces to take notes as well. So relax and enjoy the presentation. Take a few notes about the big picture ideas. Don't sweat the details, because I will get them to you. I'll show you how to get them at the end of the call. Absolutely no cost, no charge for that whatsoever. All right, clicking along. Landmine number 3. What is it? It's overestimating net profits. Overestimating net profits. So what does that mean in layman's terms? That means thinking we're going to be making a heck of a lot more money than reality shows us with real estate, especially typical buy and hold real estate investing. So a lot of us, when we first hear about real estate and we're not all that educated about it, and we hear about, having a house and let's say renting it out for $1,600 a month, on the surface, you might think $1,600 a month, that's great. That's $1,600 in my pocket, right? No. Very quickly we learn that there are some expenses involved, and that is most definitely very wrong. Reality is very, very different. And most of us know someone who's become a millionaire through real estate investing. There are tons of popular books about it. There's TV shows about it. There's people on talk shows talking about it. And it's almost like there's this aura that traditional buy and hold real estate investing is a quick and easy button way to wealth. But the truth is far different. And my own mother is a very good example of this. She started buying properties in the early 1970s. Actually, might have been the late 60s, right around that time, early 70s, and into over a 10-year period up into the early 80s. And she built up a portfolio of close to 50 doors. So that's between single-family homes and some small multifamilies and some small apartment buildings as well. And she was a do-it-yourself kind of person. So she spent tons of time, endless hours, working on the bookkeeping for her properties, as well as personally managing a lot of them. Like I say, she had single-family homes and some small apartment buildings. She even built a small apartment building from scratch. And she was doing all of this while she was working at a high responsibility management job at the school district. She was raising me, and she had to travel for work on a regular basis. So that's a picture of her family. Top left, I think you probably figured that out. That's my mom. On the right, my dad. Down below, that's my brother. And left, that's a young version, very much younger version of myself, sometime in the 70s. Okay. And unfortunately, there was a major economic crash in the early 1980s, especially in Western Canada, especially in oil country, which around where we grew up, the Peace River country in BC was definitely oil country and oil and gas. Crash hit really hard there. Vacancies soared, interest rates shot up to around 18 to 20%, and after a very heroic struggle trying to do everything she could to save her portfolio, she ended up losing it all. That was a very sad and traumatic time for her, and because I was a kid, I remember it vividly. I was really heartbroken for my mom, especially after watching her work so hard all those years to build up that portfolio, only to have it swept out from under her. Now, as hard as that was for her to take, when the smoke finally cleared, she came to an important realization. She realized that she actually had more monthly cash flow without her portfolio than she did with it. So that means she actually was making more money without the 50 doors than she was with the 50 doors. How is that possible? Well, she did have a little bit of cash flow from many of her rental units, but there were always some inevitable vacancies. There were tenant management issues. Time to time, there were legal issues, all those pesky repairs that had to be made, etc., etc. One way or the other, it seemed like she was always having to finance her portfolio from her paycheck from her job. So when she lost all these rentals, she ended up getting all of her own paycheck back to herself, and her monthly cash flow situation was actually better. Now, important. Here's an important point. I'm not saying that we should forget all about real estate investing and just live off your paycheck. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that you need to be aware that traditional buy and hold investing strategies are not a quick or easy way to creating wealth and passive income. If you're a newbie investor and if you don't understand this, you're dooming yourself to almost certain failure. Because after you get your first revenue property or two, and then you realize how little money you're making on a monthly basis and how much work is involved, or if you have a vacancy or two, the fact that you might actually have to pay to own these properties, you're very likely to give up and resign yourself to never being able to get ahead. Remember we talked about that example at the beginning of your boss offering you a job, offering you a piece of the company, but you'd have to make up for the cash flow shortages and that stuff. That's what this is like. And if you're a newbie, you might start suffering from biz ops syndrome. That's what I call it. That's where you're always chasing after the next financial magic pill that will solve all your money problems. Could be MLM or the internet businesses or online stock trading, day trading, shady investment opportunities, each one offering a bigger and better promise, but never quite working out for you. That's what I'm worried about. And if you're an experienced investor, if you're already in the trenches, you already know that this traditional buy and hold is not the road to quick and easy fortunes. If you continue with the way things are and you don't actively try to fix the problem, you're potentially dooming yourself to continuing to work two jobs. What do I mean by two jobs? Well, your day job and then your property or your portfolio management job. That can lead you to becoming stressed out and bitter and wasting years and years of your precious life working too damn hard for too little money, all in the hope that someday you can sell these blankety-blank properties and live off that cash windfall at the end. Personally, I think life's too short to spend years and years of it being miserable trying to reach that elusive end goal, which, quite frankly, rarely comes to fruition. We all know someone who's busted their butts their entire life. They worked at a job they hated, only to get sick or, even worse, die right before enjoying the fruits of their labor. Put up your virtual hand if you know somebody like that. So let's practice that. We get a little feedback here. Put up your hand if you know somebody or know of somebody that worked their entire life trying to get ahead, only to have it all crash down around them by getting sick or passing away right before or right after they retired. Trent says, I see hands coming up. Trent, Susan, a couple others, Lita. Yeah, we've all heard these stories. Thank you guys very much for participating. Good to see some new folks on the call as well. Welcome. Unfortunately, this was one of my grandfathers ended up this way. He only lived for a couple of years after he retired, and he was really sick for many of those years. This is not a picture of him. However, it's kind of uncanny how much this gentleman looks like my grandfather. It happens all the time. It's really sad. Definitely don't want to see that happening to you. I think life's a journey. It's meant to be enjoyed as we live it, not some time way out 15, 20 years down the road. So in a moment, I'm going to share 3 specific and proven strategies for creating more money from either your current portfolio, if you already have one, or your future portfolio if you're just getting started. So again, we'll show you how to get all the notes and the slides at the end, but if you want to take a few notes, this is a good time to start. Now, I've been bashing buy and hold or traditional real estate investing for quite a while now. I don't want you to get the impression that it's wrong to do long-term or have long-term rentals in your portfolio. This really is the true path to long-term wealth creation and that eventual retirement type cash flow. But it's important to note, I said long-term. This is not quick. This is a long-term strategy. So here's some tips if you want to start creating some significant cash flow from your current portfolio or from your future portfolio. Tip number 1 is to have a realistic plan of action. Lots of people think if they're getting $75 a month net cash flow from their rentals and they want to replace their $5,000 a month income from their job, they're going to need something like 70 doors to get that done. Now, here's the problem. Getting to 70 doors, 70, is very daunting for most human beings. Most of us can't get our minds around buying that many properties. So why not look at a more creative idea instead? And my good friend Ken Beaton shows people how to accomplish the cash flow goals with far fewer doors. That's half a picture of Ken. I apologize for that. You can tell how technologically savvy I am. Sorry, Ken, cut your head off there, buddy. If you can see all of that, that's Ken Beaton. And what he shows is he shows people how to have fewer doors to accomplish that same goal by increasing the cash flow per door. So he calls that 5 doors to freedom. And I'm going to give you just a very brief synopsis of that. Ken teaches a whole program on this. Highly recommend it. But basically, here's your plan. You're going to buy 10 to 15 properties over the next 5 to 7 years. So let's say about 2 properties a year. And then what you want to do is, instead of taking any of the cash flow out and putting it into your pocket, you're going to roll all of the profits, all of the net cash flow, into paying down the mortgages on the best properties. Okay, so you're not taking home any paychecks. You're putting all the money back into the portfolio to pay down the mortgages on the best properties. And then after some time, when the market's right, you sell off half of your properties. So let's say you've got 15 properties. Well, let's say if you had 15 properties, you sell off 10 of them, and you put all of your profits towards paying off the mortgages on your 5 best properties. So now you end up having 5 free and clear properties. And if you're smart, if you do it right, you make sure that each of these properties is suited. So it's got a basement suite. So those 5 properties are actually the equivalent of 10 doors. And if you paid off all the mortgages, they're free and clear. So let's see if we got some numbers here. Okay. Let's say you're bringing in $1,200 per door gross income per month. So that would be $12,000 a month gross for the portfolio. And let's say you're running at 60% net. You've got your mortgage paid off, so this is after all your expenses, your management fees, your vacancies, taxes, repairs, that sort of thing. You end up making $7,200 per month net in your pocket. That is sweet. And Ken teaches an entire program on exactly how to do this. I highly recommend it. 5 Homes to Freedom. The deal is, this is still a long-term project. At the least, it's a 10-year plan. And in the meanwhile, you're not taking any cash flow out of your portfolio. You're just paying down your mortgages as fast as possible. So that's one idea, is coming up with that kind of a plan. Sip of water here. Tip number 2. My friend Darren Weeks, Canada's rich dad. His advice, which he's given for years, and I think is absolutely brilliant, is to start charging a deal generation fee to your investors when you get them in a deal. So eventually, most real estate investors run out of money for down payments to buy properties fairly quickly. So they start using OPM, other people's money, in the form of investors. So Darren's talking, and most people, when they have an investor, they're just thrilled that somebody will invest the money with them. They wouldn't dare to charge them a fee. Darren's saying, no, charge a fee for creating the deal. So here's how it works in a nutshell. You find the property with instant equity in it. Instant equity means it comes, you're already getting a deal on the property the minute you buy it. And you charge a $5,000 fee up front to your investor. And that's in addition to the down payment and the credit that's needed for them to buy the property. Now you might be saying, Dave, you're crazy. How can you do this? Well, you definitely have to develop some serious self-confidence in what you're doing, and you have to be able to communicate to your potential and your actual investors the real value that you bring. And in a second, I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. All right, so let's take a look. Who actually does more when it comes to a real estate deal? Here you are as the deal maker. You're the guy or the gal on the ground putting the deal together. Here's some of the stuff you have to do. Identify the target market. Choose the type of property you want to focus on. Do marketing to attract deals. Determine the exit strategies or the investment strategy in general. Put together your power team, so lawyer, realtor, accountant, property manager, mortgage broker, you need all that real estate power team. Then you have to go out and make offers on properties, right? Offers. Negotiate the best deal you can. Get the property inspected. Work on arranging the best financing. Get appraisals on the property. Make sure the closing goes smoothly. When babysit the whole deal as it's going along. There's a lot of work involved in that if you know that if you've done any deals. Arrange insurance. Coordinate all the bookkeeping and banking. Organize all the bill payments. Market, pre-screen, select tenants. Manage the property, or even if you've got property management there, you've got to manage the manager. And be in charge of the maintenance and repairs. If you're not doing it yourself, you're making sure that it gets done properly. Okay, just a reminder, don't worry about writing all of this down. You can get a copy of all of these slides at the very end of the presentation tonight, and I'll show you how to do that. So that's what you bring to the table as an investor. There's a lot of work involved there. What about our money partner? What do they bring? Two little things, the cash and perhaps qualifying for financing. That's it. So who does more, you or them? Here's another way of looking at this. This is Stefan Arnio from Winnipeg, very sharp young guy, just rocking and rolling with creative real estate deals. And he talks about there being three parts to any successful real estate deal. The deal itself, the property, the team to put it all together and manage it, and the money to do it. Three parts to any deal. So as the deal maker, you're actually bringing 2/3 of the equation to the whole thing. 2/3 of the pie is what you bring or you are in charge of. All your investor has to do is bring the money. That's the smallest part of the whole process. That's why you should get paid something more for doing this. So by charging a $5,000 deal initiation or generation fee, you got a nice little chunk of change to help cover your expenses. If you really ramp this up where you're buying a property a month, you can actually live off of these fees, property or more. That's smart. So, told you there are going to be 3 tips. Here's the 3rd tip. Start focusing on suited or properties with suite possibilities, and you add extra revenue sources. So this is a way to get 2 doors with the purchase of just 1 home. And that way you can reach your total revenue goals much faster because you're getting 2 for 1. Okay, so here's some suggestions from Canadian Real Estate Profits expert writer and a friend of mine, Paul Hetch. He's also the author of Everyday Real Estate Millionaires. He's a regular contributing writer to Canadian Real Estate Wealth magazine as well. Very sharp guy. So here's some tips from Paul when it comes to putting in a suite in a property. So he says, first of all, you got to have a good budget. Generally speaking, to have a contractor build a new 900 square foot basement suite, and this includes demo, you're looking at around $30,000 to $45,000. So this should include the demolition, brand new kitchen, bathroom, bedroom, living area, electrical, plumbing, new windows, bathroom fixtures, appliances, hardware, finishes, and that price can go up if you have to start working on foundation work or waterproofing, or if you have to change the furnace or move the furnace or the duct work, or especially to get into the electrical. So be careful with that. So again, typically $30,000 to $45,000 if it's not a really complicated case. Should put a basement suite into a property. You also need to know where the best places to spend are. So you want to look for a basement that already has an existing bathroom. That way you're not breaking into the floor or having to run a new drain for the toilet and the tub. Look at the electrical panel and ensure there's enough room in it to add additional power for your suite. Otherwise, you're going to be having to upgrade the electrical panel. That's very expensive. Make sure that with any new layout, all the bedrooms will have access to an exterior window, and that the window is large enough that it meets your building and fire code regulations. Otherwise, you might have to be cutting a hole in the foundation, often through concrete, and that's very expensive as well. Make sure you got safety equipment installed, smoke and carbon monoxide detectors. You want to be really safe about designing the suite. You always have to look at how's your tenant going to get out in an emergency or in a fire. And invest in a really good floor plan, kitchen, bathroom, design, and anything like that. Add extra amenities like laundry and a dishwasher and exterior safety lighting. Make sure you're aware of your local rules and regulations. Every city and municipality is different. They got different rules. So you have to take a trip to City Hall before you do anything. Ask them what the process is and how long it takes. Here's a really important one. Check to ensure that your zoning will allow a suite. All right? Sometimes investors try to sneak these in, and that can be very, very dangerous and expensive. Not just from getting shut down, but by not being properly insured. So ask what the building code, the fire codes are, the licensing requirements are, anything that you have to comply with, do it by the rules. Okay, quick review of mistake number 3, and that's thinking that there's an easy button, that's overestimating what your net profits are going to be. So what are the tips that we had? First one is a realistic plan of action. If you don't think that you've got what it takes to create 70, 80, or 100 doors in your portfolio, don't sweat it. You can have a more realistic plan like Ken Beaton's, which is 5 homes to freedom. So that's basically paying off the mortgage so that you increase your cash flow per door, so you need fewer doors to reach your goals. Number 2, start charging your investors for your hard work with an upfront fee. $5,000 per deal is what I recommend. And when you learn how to present that, it's a no-brainer for your investors. And then third, focus on maximizing the cash flow from the properties you buy by getting 2 for 1. Either buying suited properties or putting suites in the properties that you already buy. Again, unadvertised bonus here. Stick around to the end of the presentation. I'll show you how to get all those slides absolutely free at the end of the presentation tonight. Okay, let's buzz along here. Landmine number 2, which is underestimating the effort involved in traditional buy and hold real estate investing. Another word for that, the work involved. So what does this mean? This is the gradual, sorry, I'm chuckling at the cartoon that we put in there. This is the gradual, or in some cases, the sudden realization that there's actually a heck of a lot of work involved with being a real estate investor, especially if you're a landlord too. And that the whole idea of this being passive income really is baloney. All right? So again, many of us get into real estate investing with this pie-in-the-sky idea that all we have to do is buy a property, and then miraculously these awesome tenants are going to show up. They're going to pay us phenomenal money for that property. They're going to take care of it like it's their own. And all we really have to do is cash a check every month. That's all we have to do. Unfortunately, this is usually the exact opposite of reality. Buying the property is the easiest part. Finding, managing, dealing with tenants and property maintenance issues is the never-ending hassle. And I'm going to tell you about one of the best creative deals I did during that whole 18 flips in 18 months period, and that was with an investor who went in with this idea in the first place. So just to tell you the story, I've been doing some of my creative real estate investing, creative real estate marketing around town, trying to attract motivated property sellers to me. I was doing very well with that, and this gentleman, we'll call him Harold, he gave me a call. He'd seen my unique advertising in the local newspaper, and he reached out for some help. And after talking with Harold, I found out basically quite a bit about his story, and he was really a nice guy. And he read I'd say he started to read a book about real estate investing. He got to the part where he said rental properties is the key to passive wealth, and he wanted some of that, so he closed the book, ran out, and promptly bought his first rental property. Now, things initially went fairly well for him. He bought a decent property in a decent area of town. It was in pretty good shape, single-family house, again, nice home owner type area, nice cul-de-sac type situation there. And for the first couple of years, everything went well for him. He had good tenants. He had some positive cash flow. Things were working just like, the first 3 chapters of the book he read. And in fact, he was getting ready to buy another rental property soon. Everything was cruising along nicely. Harold felt good. Then it happened. He got the tenants from hell. He got 3 tenants from hell all in a row. And that did it for him. The first tenant from hell was a noisy biker who had really loud, rowdy parties at all times of the day and night, all times of the week. Didn't matter. Every day was a Friday for this guy and his buddies. And just to note, it was not this particular gentleman. I just grabbed this as a representative picture. So if you know the guy, it's just a picture I found, all right? So this guy, this biker guy was just having party after party, did not care at all about the property, and actually stopped paying rent. So Harold had to try and evict a biker. It took a long time. The guy did a lot of damage to the property. Yeah, this is just a picture for illustration purposes. It wasn't that bad, but it was bad enough. And it took Harold a long time to get him out. Ended up, he had to spend close to $10,000 between fixing the property and lost rental income just to get it back to where it was before. And that all that money came out of the profits that he'd had for the last several years. But here's the problem. Harold had already spent those profits. In fact, this was way more than he'd actually made in net profits over the last couple of years. And he'd already happily spent all of the money that he had made from the real estate, so he had to come out of pocket to pay for all of this. So he kind of dusted himself up, got up again, advertised the property, and rented it to a fine young man who turned out to be a drug dealer. So now there weren't any loud, noisy parties, but there were a lot of druggy-type people hanging around, sometimes during the day, quite often at night. Then there were quite a few little police visits to the property, the whole bit. You can imagine what it's like having a drug dealer in your property. Needless to say, by this time, Harold's neighbors were not very happy with him for all of his renters. Again, it took months to get rid of this guy, and he didn't pay very much rent in the meanwhile. And Harold was starting to have second thoughts about this whole investing and landlording thing. Decided third time lucky, he put the property up for rent again, and he finally had what he thought was an ideal tenant come through his door. This was a young, professional, single mother. She had great work references. She had great rental references. She dressed well. She was polite. She spoke well, seemed well educated. Harold was thrilled to rent to her and to her young child. There was a little problem, though. She neglected to reveal the fact or tell the fact that her drug-dealing biker boyfriend was going to move in with her. Yes, I'm actually serious. You can't make this stuff up. Her boyfriend was a biker who dealt drugs. Moved in with him. Again, another monumental battle to get him out of there. Thousands of dollars in lost rent and repairs to the house. It was a nightmare. Harold was fried. He was done. All these ideas of real estate being passive were just dashed. That's what he called me up, and I came up with a creative real estate solution for him. I solved his problem. I ended up helping out a deserving local family and made a very tidy $30,000 profit for myself in the meanwhile. That's what we're talking about with creative deals. And that was all with no money, no risk, and no investors required. But let's get back to the point of the mistakes. If you're not aware of it ahead of time, you might think that real estate investing is passive, that all you have to do is buy a property and these great tenants are going to be, beating a path to your door, and that all you have to do is kick back and cash the checks. That's not how it works. So if you don't understand what's truly involved in owning revenue properties, then you're setting yourself either up for complete failure, kind of like Harold, or at best, just a boatload of disappointment. So there are strategies to go in with to mitigate the amount of work that's involved with real estate investing. I'm going to go over several of those in just a moment. But it's really important that you go into investing with your eyes wide open. That lady has very big eyes. They are wide open. You need to understand the risks and rewards and the pros and the cons of real estate investing. So let's just make sure everybody's listening here and on track. I'm going to lower people's hands. And let's see. Put up your hand if you'd like me to give you a few quick tips, tricks, and ideas to help you work less and enjoy more passive income from your portfolio. So go ahead, click on your little virtual hand there. Let me know that you're paying attention and that you want me to, okay, I see hands up. There's Mike, Guillermo, Ellen, JT, Susan, Tammy. Oh, yeah, Trent, Victoria. Okay, thanks, you guys, for participating. Putting your hands up makes me feel warm and fuzzy. Lots of hands going up. So here are the tips. And again, we can show you how to get all of the slides at the end of the presentation. You're also welcome to take a few notes as we go along. Tip number 1, learn how to properly screen and interview your prospective tenants. If you do this right, this is going to help you avoid a lot of problems and minimize the problems that do come up. So here I'm going to go over 3 suggestions that Paul Blacquier, one of our expert contributing writers to Canadian Real Estate Profits, has for screening your prospective tenants better. So again, and there's there's that smiling face of Paul Black here. Big shout out to Paul. And I want to thank Paul very much for promoting tonight's presentation to all the folks in his list. Thanks a lot, Paul. Appreciate that. And here are some of the tips that Paul has to share with that. So first of all, it's to do a really good background investigation of your potential tenants. So what do you want to do? You want to use credit check to see what their creditworthiness is. So the credit check to see what their creditworthiness is, and tenant check to see if they've ever been evicted or if they're currently going through an eviction. And if you want to be extra diligent, you can request a criminal report as well. Now, a lot of people say, well, Dave, you know, they're tenants. Why should we do a credit check on them to see what their credit's like? We're not selling them a house, we're renting them a house. Well, that's true, but what you want to see is there a history of them being late with their payments? You really don't care what their credit is. You want to see what their reliability is for paying their bills on time. Because I don't know about you, but I'd rather get have my tenants pay their rent on time than late. Okay? Next one is call all of the references. Now, I used to think, before I got educated about this, you know, what real use is it to call references? Because they're probably BS references anyhow. You know, they probably put their mother in there as their boss, and they put their Uncle Fred in there as their last landlord, and all this kind of stuff. I was a little skeptical. But what Paul teaches, which is just brilliant, is you're not, you know, you're going in, taking it with a grain of salt. What you're trying to do is find inconsistencies between what the tenant has told you and what the reference says. And then if you find one of these inconsistencies, that's definitely a red flag. So what do I mean by that? So you're going to ask misleading questions to see if the references correct you. And if they don't correct you, then it's probably a BS question and a BS reference. So, for example, if you're calling their place of employment, or what they claim is their place of employment, if on their application form they say they've been working there for 6 years, then you call their employer and you say, okay, it says, I understand that Joe Smith here, he's been working with you for the last 3 years. Is that correct? And if they correct you, say, no, actually, no, Joe, I think he's been here for 5 or 6 years, not 3 years. Okay, well, then that's probably a good, true reference. If they say, yep, yeah, it's been 3 years, then it's probably a BS reference. All right, you see how that works? And if you're looking at landlord references, the most recent landlord doesn't really count. The current landlord doesn't really count. Why not? Because that landlord might say anything to get rid of this person if they're a real pain in the butt tenant. So don't trust the current landlord they've got. Go back at least the one before that to find out the real scoop on them. Next suggestion from Paul is to have a surprise visit to their current home. This is a really good idea. So go visit them where they live right now. If it's a complete pigsty and they aren't taking care of it and it looks like crap, guess what your place is going to look like once they move in? Exactly the same way. Okay, if you can't get to see their place of residence, maybe take a peek if you can inside their vehicle, see how they maintain their vehicle. It's not a perfect analogy, but it gives you a pretty good idea of how neat and tidy they are or are not. Okay. Next big tip, keep your property in good shape so you attract a better quality of tenant in the first place and you don't have to deal with so many maintenance issues. So focus on buying good, solid, quality properties in the first place. A lot of investors think they should start with less expensive, also known as cheap, rental properties. So unless you're really experienced and very handy yourself, and you've got significant rehab experience, which I don't, I'm about as handy as a foot. And unless you're like a really handy person, avoid those fixer-uppers at all costs. Like they're going to end up costing you way too much in the long run. The other challenge with low-priced properties is they're usually in poorer areas of town. So that means that the rents are lower and you tend to attract a lower income clientele. Now don't get mad at me and say, hey Dave, that's elitist, you sound like a snob, blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying that poor people are always poor tenants. However, fact is a fact. That is the end of the market where you tend to have the most problematic tenants. It just is. All right, so you want to avoid that. Focus on nice properties. That allows you to charge top market rents, attract better tenants, and increase your cash flow and lower your overall level of expenses, repair expenses, and hassles. Another tip here is hire a property management company to take care of the management for you, right? We all like this idea. And a good property management company is worth every penny it charges you. Saves you so much time, so much hassle with property management, and they also help you to find really good tenants and help you to keep them as well. That's a good property management company. But even with that said, even if you've got a good company, you still have to keep an eye on the managers and keep them on budget and keep them on task. So that's how, if you're not going to manage yourself, you have to learn how to manage the managers. And here are some great tips from another one of our Canadian Real Estate Profits writers, Joanne Beaton. And she owns Arca Property Management. And here are some of her suggestions. Number one, compile a list of property management companies in your area. You can do this through Google, the phone book, networking with other real estate investors, join your local landlords association. Lots of ways you can find out about property management companies. Number two, contact them and see how well they respond to your phone call. How do they answer the phone? When you get them on the phone, do a little phone interview. Find out what their list of services is, as well as an explanation. Do they have an info package or a website? How professional are they? Try and have an in-person interview at their office. Do they really have an office, or are you meeting them at their house on the kitchen table, right? You want to get answers to the following questions. How much do they charge? What are the fees? What do these fees actually cover? When you do repairs for you, do they charge an upcharge or a premium for that? Do they tack on an extra 10 or 15 or 20%? When they do repairs, do they have their own team that does repairs, or do they have service providers that they call to come in? When it comes to financial services, what do they provide? What kind of reports do they provide? Where does your rent money get deposited? Here's a clue. Write this one down. Make sure it gets deposited in your bank account, not theirs. Okay? Who on their team handles the tenants? And then if it's somebody else besides the person you're meeting with, then ask to get introduced to them. See who's going to be dealing with your tenants. How are the tenant calls handled? Who takes care of the maintenance issues? Who collects the rent? How's that rent collected? What happens if the rent isn't collected? And then how is the building managed? Are they proactive or reactive? So does that mean, are they looking for things before they go wrong, or are they just responding when somebody calls up that something's broken down? And very important, is the property management company willing to provide you with references? Okay, lots of stuff in landmine number 2. And that was underestimating the effort involved. Let's do a quick review. So number 1, spend some more time and effort upfront properly screening your prospective tenants. Check the references, use tenant checking services, ask for credit checks. It is more work at the beginning, but it saves you endless hassles and expense over the long run. Number 2, focus on buying good quality properties in good areas. So it might cost you a little bit more up front, but again, you're going to have fewer maintenance issues, you can charge higher rents, and you're going to attract a higher caliber of tenant. Last but not least, look for a very good property management company to take care of all of the day-to-day management and maintenance. Take that off your plate. Now you're going to have to spend a little bit of your profit on that, but it's definitely worthwhile with the quality of life that you're going to get in return. But even if you have a management company, remember, you're going to have to manage the managers. Okay? So let's see. What are you thinking so far of the ideas and the tips that I'm giving you guys so far? Let's see what you think. Let's see. Put up your hand if you're enjoying the ideas and the tips that I'm giving you guys so far. Put your hand up there. Okay, Lynn, Mike, Richard, Susan, Arthur, Tam. Oh, thanks, you guys. Everybody's putting their hands up. Good. Love to hear it. Glad you're enjoying the presentation. I'm having fun myself. Even though I was flapping my lips all weekend long, always enjoy putting on these presentations. It's a lot of fun. Now, as big as these first 2 mistakes have been, they're definitely not the biggest mistakes. So the biggest mistake that I see most Canadian real estate investors making that keeps them working too darn hard for too little money, that keeps them just frustrated with their portfolio and their profits puny, the number 1 landmine is not using creative real estate strategies. So some people do start off with the whole goal of buying 2 or 3 revenue properties, holding them for the long term. So I'm talking 15, 20, 25, 30 years. And they're holding it as a long-term investment just to supplement their pension. Some people do that. However, I don't think that that is the objective that most of us have when we think about real estate investing. Most of us want to get into real estate investing to create wealth and passive income. Not just enough to live on, but enough to thrive on. Plus, we want to have the ability to do what we want, when we want, how we want to do it, and with whom we want to do it. And we want to do that as soon as possible. So in other words, we want complete personal and financial freedom, and we would like it fast. That's what we're looking for. Most people don't get involved with real estate investing to get rich slowly. Usually when people start building up their portfolio, they do take the time to get some basic education about it. They may buy some real estate investing books, or they might go to some real estate investing seminars and take some courses, join a real estate investing club, or one of those national networks of investors. All of that's great. And if you want to get the same slow results as the majority of people, do the same things they do it. If you want to get different results, you have to do different things. So here's the inconvenient truth about Canadians becoming wealthy through real estate investing. I know people who have 80 or more doors, so that's revenue properties, and they continue to work at their JOBs, their day jobs, and it's not because they like their job. It's because they have to. Saying, Dave, somebody with 80 properties has to keep working at their job? Yes. They're stuck in the same track my mother was back in the 80s. They're working hard at their jobs, and they're taking money from their paychecks to make up for the negative cash flow and those cash calls from their portfolios. And here's the challenge. I mean, even with a ton of properties, they don't have enough cash flow to come anywhere close to accomplishing their revenue and their lifestyle goals. It's going to take them 10, 15, 20 years to get anywhere close, right? It's the biggest problem I see when people follow the herd when it comes to real estate investing. And it can really dishearten most people either when they're just getting started or before they even really try to do anything with real estate investing, once they realize this. And that means it's heartbreaking. It means they continue working hard, maybe even at a job they hate or with a boss that they hate. They try to save some money. They put it into their RRSPs. They watch that go down the toilet every time the stock market has a correction. How many people have lost their retirement income with the stock market mutual funds? Tons. They are just so stuck, so frustrated. They live lives of quiet desperation. They don't have to do that. It doesn't have to be that way. So here are some tips about how to get going with creative real estate investing to add that on to your toolbox of strategies for real estate investing. So again, part of it's all about having a very clear plan of what you want to do and how you want to accomplish it. So if you do love your job and you just want a little extra income and security for your retirement, 2 or 3 properties is cool. That's great. Go for it. However, if you want to create a full-time income from real estate investing and you want to do it faster, you want to do it sooner rather than later, you're going to have to look at other strategies. So you can do several different things. Maybe you start getting into really big deals quickly. So that means getting into big commercial deals, getting into big multifamily units, apartment buildings, really, really fast so that even though it's very small cash flow per door, you're getting involved with a ton of doors really, really fast. A few people have done that. More commonly, it means getting involved with creative single-family investing strategies. That's what we're going to be talking about here. Tip number 2, maximize your revenues from your current properties. All right? So we already mentioned the solutions with mistake number 1. So that could be, or landmine number 1. So that could mean adding a suite to one of your properties to making it 2 doors instead of 1. And here's a few more ideas. If you've got a single-family property and you've got a detached garage with the property, don't include that with the rent. That's right. You don't have to include the garage with the rent in that property. A good friend of mine, Bruce Hinton here in Kamloops, he's a local real estate investor. He earns an extra $200 a month pure profit by renting out the garage separately from the house. He rents out the garage separately from the house for $200 a month. He was renting it to a car buff who had his hot rod in there. He would put the hot rod, he kept the hot rod there, he'd tinker with it at nights and on the weekends, and he was just thrilled to have this big garage for $200 a month to keep his baby car in, right? So rented out other garages for storage. Speaking of storage, if you've got a storage shed on the property, you can rent that out separately. You know, 50, 75, 100 bucks a month. Every little bit certainly helps. Here's a really good idea. Why not consider furnishing the property and renting it out fully furnished? That's right. An investment of a couple of $1,000s can increase the amount you can charge for rent by 50% or more. And that adds up really, really quickly. That's what another one of our contributing writers, July Ono, and her husband Steve have done with some of the rental suites up in Fort St. John. They're absolutely thrilled with the results and the increased profits. In fact, they had some revenue properties up there that were already suited, or not already suited, already furnished, and they noticed that they couldn't get as much rent as some of the other properties in town for furnished suites. So what Steve did is he went, I think, to Pier 1 or something like that, spent a few $100s, bought some nicer pictures and lamps and a few things like that, put them in one of the suites. He was able to increase the rent on that suite by $75 a month just by putting in some nicer stuff in the furnished suite. Spent $200 on that, getting an increased $75 a month. You figure out the math over a year what the return on investment was. Absolutely phenomenal. Okay, so consider furnishing your suites. You can get much, much better cash flow that way. Tip number 3, start doing creative real estate investing strategies that allow you to quickly start making a full-time income, quit your JOB, and then you build up your long-term portfolio at the same time. So I'm not saying stop doing buy and hold. Continue to do buy and hold, but do creative deals at the same time to create the cash flow for you to be living off of. So if you already have a portfolio, by focusing on creative strategies, that can help you break the chains of trying to do 2 different jobs, your day job and your real estate job. That allows you to consolidate your current portfolio. So let's say you've got a portfolio of properties and you've got a couple of what we call dogs in them. That means properties that are negative cash flow, or they're hard to rent, or they just aren't working right. By doing some creative strategies with those properties, you can actually get above market rent for them, sell them for full market value, and not even have to use a realtor for doing that. How's that sound? And by doing this, by focusing on creative deals, you can actually start living that real estate investor dream lifestyle. What do I mean by that? I mean making a full-time 6-figure income from real estate investing. So there are different ways that you can get involved in this, whether you're new or an experienced investor. There are several different things that you can do. You could start by wholesaling or assigning deals. So this is where you find and you negotiate and you tie up the deal, and then you assign, so you create a deal. So you're finding a deal, a property, ideally quite a bit under market value. You negotiate everything, you seal this all up, you get it all tied up, and then basically you assign that contract to another investor, and they pay you a fee for doing that. That fee can be anything from $2,000 to $15,000 or more. In fact, I was just talking with Ken Beaton the other day. He was showing me a couple of examples, one where he actually got a $35,000 fee for assigning a wholesale deal, for doing a wholesale deal. Depends on the size of the deal and the profit that's involved in there, the amount of instant equity that you're creating for the next person. But that's a great way to get going with creative real estate investing. It requires no cash, you don't have to have the money for the down payments, very, very little risk as well. Another great way to get fast cash without having to come up with down payments or investors or to be at any risk whatsoever is to do options. Again, I'm just giving you a very brief outline to give you the idea of how you can do these things. So an option is basically where you find, negotiate, and you get an option to purchase a property. An option is basically the option to purchase a property, but not the obligation to it. You're not locked into a contract that you have to buy the property. And in this case, you're going to turn around, you're going to find a retail customer for this home. So this is different than wholesaling. You're not trying to find an investor. You're trying to find an end buyer, somebody who's going to move into this house and live in it. And then your profit is the difference between what you negotiate to pay the seller for the property and what the end buyer is going to pay for it. The beautiful thing about this is you can get involved with this with no risk, no money, no hassles, no investors. The best experience I had with that was creating over $32,000 in profit in right around 45 days. Those are the kind of things that we teach in our program. Another opportunity there is buy, fix, and sell, also known by some people as flips. So this is the stuff that you see on TV quite often, those fun property type shows. Unfortunately, most of those shows are complete BS, and they don't show you the real picture of how the whole thing works. But we all get the idea. We find a property, we negotiate, we buy the property for a really, really good price. Then we go in, we make some repairs, ideally as quickly as possible. We get it up to speed, we make it really attractive. Ideally, we're working with lipstick and rouge type things. We turn it around, ideally within 90 days, and there are great profit potentials there. In fact, I'll talk about Stefan Arnio in just a few minutes here because he's a phenomenal buy, fix, and sell investor. But if you'd like to know what the #1 secret of the most successful real estate investors I know is, they don't do it alone. They work with a mentor and they work with a tight-knit group for support. They don't do it alone. They do not pretend they're the Lone Ranger. So here's the problem if you don't start doing creative real estate investing deals. So you're going to doom yourself to very low to no cash flow, maybe even negative cash flow. You're going to struggle with tenants. You're going to struggle with property maintenance issues. You're going to be hoping and praying for future appreciation. And you're going to be basically suffering unnecessarily. If you're an experienced investor, I'm really concerned that you're going to get old and frustrated way before your time. You're going to get burnt out. You can get sick. Worst case scenario, you die early. I've seen it time and time again. Somebody gets involved in real estate investing, they start building up their portfolio, they work hard at it, they got their JOB, they're buying properties, they're managing the properties, they're repairing properties, and slowly but surely they start getting burned out, they're getting frustrated, starting to get sick. What happens? They get either really sick and they have to sell at the bottom of the market, or worse even yet, they die and then they leave it to their family, and it seems like inevitably it's a case where the market's not cooperating right at the moment. They end up selling at the absolute worst time, and nobody ever sees the fruit of the labor. It's a tragedy, but I see it happen over and over again. I don't want that to happen to you. If you're a new investor, you might get started with investing, but very, very quickly, after you buy a couple of properties, you're going to realize how little cash flow is involved doing it traditionally, how much work's involved, and that means you're going to get stuck, or you're going to just get stuck with 2 or 3 properties. Or worse yet, you're going to quit and you're going to go back to the same old grind. It really hurts to see people sticking at jobs they really hate, jobs that just suck the life out of them. There's nothing worse than spending 40 hours a week, 8 hours a day, 8, 10, 12 hours a day in a place that you don't want to be, with people you don't want to be with, doing something you absolutely hate that's a waste of time, that does not do anything for you or your life. There's nothing worse than that. Fighting and divorcing over money, not making the money that you deserve or that you want, and then arguing with your spouse about it. That's the #1 cause of divorce, is over money. I can relate to this one. Getting into debt and then having to juggle those debts, how to pay off debts, one credit card paying the other. Been there, done that. It sucks. Not being able to give the very best to your loved ones and to your family. There's no reason for it. You can accomplish all of this. You can accomplish it all through real estate investing if you do it creatively. My big brother Dan is a prime example. Dan is in his mid-50s. He was a certified financial planner based in Halifax. He'd been a certified financial planner for 23 years. He was really starting to hate his career. Why? Because he'd gone through 3 major cycles in the stock market over his career. So what does that mean? That means he'd bust his butt for his clients, try and get them organized with a portfolio of stocks, bonds, mutual funds, what have you. Get them chugging along. They'd be kind of happy with what the returns are. He'd be doing the best he could. Then wham! Stock market crashes. People lose money. Who do they blame? Him, of course. He had no control over it, but he'd get blamed. He went through that whole up and down cycle 3 times. Think he got sick of it? Darn rights he did. But there he is. He's in his mid-50s. His previous job, he'd been an oil field worker. He'd been working overseas on oil rigs and that kind of stuff. He'd been this financial planner for 23 years. What the heck's he going to do? How is he going to switch careers in his mid-50s? Well, that was the struggle that he had. How does he not only switch careers, but he was, because he was a financial planner, he was basically self-employed. What else is he going to do? And how can he replace that income and do it very, very quickly? So that was the challenge that he had. When I got started, I struggled a lot. I made a lot of very expensive mistakes. I didn't have much money to do that with. And then I left a lot of profit on the table because I was going alone. I was doing the Lone Ranger thing. I harp on you about don't be a Lone Ranger. Why? Because I was a Lone Ranger. I thought I could do it on my own. Actually, I didn't even understand that I really needed a team at that time. So I get sick of seeing experienced real estate investors getting burnt out and newbies not starting right, and they struggle and they quit. It really gets on my nerves. And that's why I started the Creative Profits Club, which is a 12-month group mentoring program. So again, I'm going to encourage you to stick on the program. I'm going to be sharing some more ideas with you while I talk to you a little bit about the Creative Profits Club. And again, you can get all of the slides from tonight's presentation at the end of the call, and I'll show you exactly how to do that at no cost to you. So I got a question for you. Let's see by a show of hands. I'll just lower the hands here for a second. How would you like to make $100,000 in profit from doing just a few little creative deals in a 12 months or less? How would you like to create $100,000 or more in creative real estate profits in 12 months or less? Put up your hand if you like that idea. $100,000 in 12 months or less. Let's see, we got some hands. Tammy, Victoria, Richard, put up your hand, you guys. Ellen, Lynn. All right, we're getting it. $100,000 or in 12 months or less. That's what we're going to be talking about over the next few minutes. So the challenge is believing that you can actually do it and then knowing how to do it. That's why I created this club, to give you the knowledge, the tools, and the support, the personal encouragement that you need to accomplish this goal. That's because I've seen so many frustrated real estate investors give up on their dreams just because they didn't know how to do this. That's why I created this program, the Creative Profits Club. This is my promise to you. When you become a member of the Creative Profits Club, you're going to have all of the training, the motivation, the support you need to have $100,000 in creative profits in as quickly as one short year. So there are 4 big pillars of success to this club. The first part is training. Second, achieving. Third is fun and friendship. And fourth, last but not least, is all the support that you need. So when it comes to the training, I have every month a live web training class. So every month, myself and or with a guest expert, we get on a webinar like this. We go point by point over a very specific part of creative real estate investing. It could be for example, my multiple offer strategy. And this is the advantage I have when I'm making an offer on a property. My competitors all go in and they tend to make just one lowball offer. What happens then? They insult the seller. The seller gets their hackles up. They don't want to do business. They tell them to take a hike. On the other hand, the strategy I have, multiple offers, I go in and I make that same seller 2, 3, maybe even 4 different offers on the property, and it becomes not a yes or a no idea. It becomes, which offer do I like best? One of them is probably a lowball offer. One of them, depending on the circumstances, might be actually over their asking price. Who do you think they're going to do business with? Me or my competitor? Me. That's the kind of training we do in this program. We just did, our most recent training was all about wholesale deals. That's where we had Ken Beaton on the call, my good friend. He showed us the steps he's gone through to create as much as $35,000 or more from doing one little wholesale deal, just assigning a contract to another investor. So not only do we have these live web training events, we also send you a hard copy DVD of the event, audio CDs. We transcribe the whole thing. We put on all of the slides and everything as handouts as well, send that to you as a package. Why do we do that? Because some people aren't able to be on the live web training class, so they like to watch the DVD in their DVD player, like to listen to the CDs in their vehicle and really reinforce that information. And the handouts are great because you can go through that information. You can find the transcript, just highlight the main parts. You can go through the slides, make notes, what's most important to you along with the slides. And that really helps the information to stick. That's why we provide that as well. We've got 24/7 access to the members-only website. If you can't make the live training, no problem. Within usually 24 to 48 hours, we've got it all up on the live website, so you can get it right away. You don't have to wait for it to arrive in the mail. Best of all, we've got live training events. I told you about the Rent-Own Summit that I just finished this weekend. As a Creative Profits Club member, you are invited to all of our live events, and that we have different examples there. We've got Rent-Own Profit Summit. We've got coming up Buy, Fix, and Sell Summit, again, so how to do flips. So these are live training events on all of that. And FSBO Deal Generation Summit, which will be happening in early 2014. As a Creative Profits Club member, you are invited to attend all of these live training events as part of the program. So it's not enough just to show you how to do stuff, give you the training and the education. I also want to give you the tools that you need to be successful. So that's the second pillar, that's achieving. And just a sec here. So what do we include with tools? Well, we've got different easing templates, investor and client newsletter templates that you can use. Why is a template important? Well, this saves you so much time and effort. We do 99% of all the work for you. All you have to do is put in your contact information, print these things out, send them out, and they're ready to go. So we've got these newsletter templates. We have different marketing templates that we focus on each month. So one month it might be a business card. We send you that all ready to go. All you have to do is put your own contact information, get them printed out, and you're good to go. Care tab signs, vehicle signage, all sorts of different things, marketing templates, not only old school offline marketing, but also newer online marketing templates as well, ready for you to use. Just saves you tons and tons of time and effort. So I told you I was going to give you a few more tips and tricks during this presentation. So I want to talk to you about the cheapest advertising I know of that gives you the biggest bang for your buck. And that is, how would you like to get, when you put $100 into something, if you could get $40,000 out at the end, would you do it? What's your return on your investment? $100 in, $40,000 out at the end, what's the ROI, or the return on investment? It's darn high. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's a lot. And what is that? What is that marketing trick that I'm talking about? None other than simple old vehicle signage. That's right, vehicle signage. Top left picture, that's my old minivan when I first got started. I buy houses, any price range, any condition, Kamloops and area. And the bottom right is my my current vehicle with my rent-own signage on there. Renting sucks, rent-own, BC rent to buy. I'll tell you a quick story. So the minivan up on the top left, one day I was driving around Kamloops and this lady came up behind me and she was driving erratically, honking at me, waving at me. I was a little freaked out at first, but then I realized what I was driving in. I thought, hey, you know, she probably wants to talk about real estate. And talk she did. We got out of the car and she told me all about her situation. It turned out that she and her husband had built their dream home near Kamloops on a lake, and they'd spent a couple of years building this executive home, you know, custom built, very, very nice, and they just moved into it after they built it, and they lived in it for just over a year when unfortunately her husband got cancer and passed away. So there she was, left alone in this big house all by herself that had been their dream home that they built together with the idea of living into their old age together. So it really broke her heart to be in this home without her husband. It just brought back too many memories for her. So she wanted to move back up north where she came from to be near her daughter and her daughter's family. So at the time, the market was kind of soft. She listed it. This had happened 2 years before, so it had been sitting there vacant for 2 years. She listed it with 3 different realtors. They'd shown it numerous times. They'd never been able to sell it. She tried selling it on her own, like as a FSBO, for sale by owner. Wasn't having any luck doing that because she was way up north and the house was down there. It was just a disaster. That's why she was so excited to see me. Long story short, I was able to solve her problem. I was able to do a creative deal on this property, and I created over $32,000 in profits for myself in right around 45 days. Helped her out. She was thrilled. The buyer of the home was thrilled. It was definitely a win-win situation. All right? So again, we talked a little bit about the magnetic marketing templates. That's what's included with that, helping you to achieve. So does this stuff work? It most definitely does. So I just want to share a few little tidbits from some of our successful members. Up there you'll see Sheldon Dietz. Sheldon is actually an auto mechanic, heavy-duty mechanic, up in Grand Prairie, Alberta. Sheldon has already had a portfolio of properties, and he was working full-time at his job. He's got his property management with his own portfolio of properties. And the reason Sheldon got into investing in the first place was because he really wanted to be able to take care of his daughter, who was born with some special needs and was going to need full-time care for the rest of her life. So that was the spark Sheldon needed. So he got into real estate investing, built up a little bit of a portfolio, heard about creative real estate investing, and he jumped in on it, did 6 deals in his first 8 months, I believe, created, oh my goodness, I don't know the exact numbers, but I know it's definitely over $150,000 in upfront fees, phenomenal monthly cash flow. Long story short, able to do this in part-time, continue to work in his job, but by doing this, he was able to fulfill some big dreams for himself. First one was to create his own dream house. His dream house is different than the rest of ours. It's a house that has 100% wheelchair accessibility for his daughter. He was able to do that thanks to creative real estate investing. He was also able to buy a very specially made type of a motorhome, looks more like a semi-truck with an extended cab, so that he can actually go on family vacations with the entire family, and his daughter's comfortable there, traveling long distances. So it's just helped him to create his ideal lifestyle. There's another picture there, JP and Jade Cloutier, nice young couple, got going. They didn't have a lot of cash, didn't have investors, did a creative deal. They were able to create over $30,000 in profit with none of their own money in the deal, no investors involved, very little risk, and I believe they're getting over $400 a month net cash flow from a property they don't even own. Young Stefan Arnio, I mentioned before, this gentleman is just kicking butt. He's doing creative deals in Winnipeg. He created a Canadian Real Estate Wealth Joint Venture Partner of the Year last year because he did 12 buy, fix, and sells in his very first year in the business, each one generating between $20,000 and $40,000. And, oops, oh, there we have Melanie Kinch and her business partner, Grant Bell. These are recent students of mine, got involved in the program, and within 2 months, they're working on 4 creative deals. Each one will be generating between $30,000 and $50,000 in net profits for them. That is what is possible with this program. Okay, what kind of club would it be without fun and networking? So fun and friendship is a big part of this. This includes annual club getaway invitations, networking at events, and masterminds. Let's talk about our getaways. Every year we have a very, very fun club getaway. This is pictures from Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, where a bunch of us went down a few years ago. There's the gang there. We had a great time in Puerto Vallarta doing different things. Next year we went to Scottsdale, Arizona, saw the Grand Canyon, hung out at none other than Rich Dad, the real Rich Dad's offices in Scottsdale. Got to meet all those folks, had a great time. Absolutely phenomenal. So every year we have a getaway that you are invited to attend as part of the program. Next part is masterminding. Masterminding is absolutely huge. We're going to have 2 formal masterminds per year for Creative Profits Club's members, where you can come in, and a mastermind is where we get together as a group, and each person in the group has an opportunity to have a hot seat, and you're there. You tell us what's working with your business, with your real estate investing, what you need help with, and the entire group focuses all of their knowledge, their experience, their contacts, their education, all on you and your specific problem. This is absolutely huge. The breakthroughs that you get from being part of a mastermind can be literally life-changing. They have been for me. So we have 2 of those per year. Speaking of masterminds, there's the founder of the whole idea, Napoleon Hill, author of Think and Grow Rich. If you find you're weak in persistence, surround yourself with a mastermind group. Was that another word for that? If you need a good kick in the butt to take the action you need to take, be part of a mastermind. And last but not least, support. So you get all of the support you need to achieve what you're trying to achieve, to accomplish your goals. So what does that include? That includes unlimited email access to me, directly to me. Send me an email about anything that you want to know about, and I will answer that within 2 to 3 days. Every month, we also have an open Q&A call where you can call in, and we're happy to help you with any problems that you have on that call-in. And then we also have a one-on-one laser coaching session for you as well. That's part of the support that you have. So by participating and joining this program, you're going to have everything you need to create at least $100,000 from creative real estate investing in a year or less. So let's just recap what's included. It sounded like a lot, but it's really quite simple. So it's the training, achieving, fun and friendship, and support. The training is the monthly webinars, training webinars that we have. It's the live events that you get to come to as well. That's where you're really going to learn the nuts and bolts of what you need to be a success in creative real estate investing. Achieving, we give you the tools that you need to achieve what you want to achieve, and everything that you need for that. Fun and friendship, that's all about hanging around with other like-minded people, not just for the support, but also to be doing deals with. This is a great way to meet potential joint venture partners and money partners. And last but not least, the support you need. I don't leave you alone. I help you out as much as you need during the program as well. I've just created the best program in the country for creative real estate investors. So what's all of this worth? Let's talk about the investment. So for example, I've talked a lot about Ken Beaton. There's the picture of Ken. You can actually see him. Ken Beaton is one of the most successful real estate investors that I know of. And Ken has over 117 doors in his portfolio, is worth millions of dollars. And where Ken got his education, his initial education, was what is now called Rich Dad education. And over the years that he was involved with that, he invested over $45,000 in his education. Was it worth it? You bet it was. 117 doors right now, multi-million-dollar portfolio. It was definitely worth it. And Rich Dad Education is awesome. I highly recommend them. I've got all of Kiyosaki's books. Rich Dad Education comes through many parts of the country. They do free evening events, and then they have weekend workshops and higher-priced training programs. If you can do it, I highly recommend that you do that. The investment for the Creative Profits Club is less. The investment is $497 per month, and it's a 12-month program. And if you're interested in that, I encourage you to go to creativecashforcanadians.com to enroll right now. Here's another success story. This is one of my successful students, Rick Wheeler. Rick is self-employed. He also has 4 or 5 properties in his portfolio, and he was becoming a frustrated landlord. He got going with creative real estate investing, specifically with rent-own real estate investing, and he now, it says 6 there, but I think he's actually up to 7 or 8 deals on the go right now. Here's an example of one of his deals, a rent-own deal in St. Albert, where he got $6,200 as a non-refundable option fee up front. He's getting $547 a month cash flow, total profit of over $25,000. Now here's the kicker. He had none of his own money involved in this, no investors, no mortgage, and very, very little risk. How many of those kind of deals do you need to create $100,000? Not very many. And that's called a sandwich lease. So I want to talk about another great resource for you. This is the rent-own cash-on-demand system for Canadians. I've got hundreds of students across the country who have taken this program. It works all across the country. This is a 9-module home study program. By the end of the program, you're going to be able to use rent-to-own creative real estate investing strategies to get 5 times, 8 times, even 10 times the normal cash flow of single-family rentals. Plus, you get paid big chunks of cash at the beginning of your deals, up front. Now, what I mean by big chunks of cash, I'm talking about $10,000, $20,000. One of my students has even been paid $70,000 at the beginning of a rent-own deal. That's not common. It's usually $15,000, $20,000, $25,000. The great thing about rent-own is you have 0 tenant headaches, no property maintenance issues or expenses, and you can even do this kind of investing like I just showed you with no money, no investor partners, and very little to no risk, and where your credit really is irrelevant. So a lot of people say, Dave, this is too good to be true. They say that until they go through this course. And like I said, I've got hundreds of students across the country who prove this is not only possible, it isn't that tough. Okay, so what does it include? Like I said, 9 modules. The first part is instant and immediate access to everything online. So you can go through all 9 modules, watch the videos at your pace, learn all of the different things about rent-owned real estate investing. So, for example, one of the biggest mistakes I see uneducated rent-owned investors making is not making sure that their rent-owned clients are set up for success. They did get a deal up and going, and then they leave it as is. They just cash the checks, which is very attractive, of course, but if you want it to be really successful, you need to set up a credit repair plan for your clients, and then you really need to babysit them throughout the whole process. So in Chapter 4, in Module 4 of the whole program, I walk you through exactly how to do that. Module 3, I show you exactly what you need to do to create just a traffic jam of leads to your website, people who are just really, really interested in rent-owned real estate investing, so you've got plenty and plenty of prospects. So again, by having access online, you're able to watch these videos and listen to the audios and get all of the materials anytime you want, 24/7, from the comfort of your home on the internet. We're also going to include all of the recordings, the handouts, and the templates, everything that you need, also in hard copy. So if you're like me and you like to write things down, you can do that as well. If you like to read, if you're old-fashioned, you like paper and ink, we've got that for you as well. This is very cool. This is our newest thing, part of the program, our portable electronic trainer, and we've got the entire program on this little device. Kind of looks like a GPS, but you can watch the videos on that. We've got the audios on that. You can plug this into your vehicle stereo and listen to the audios while you're driving around. You can watch this. It's portable. You can take it wherever you're going, plug in the headphones, watch things. Cool thing is we've got all of the documentation on this little device as well. The deal calculator, so if you're working on something, you can just clunk in the numbers right there. Everything's at your fingertips. Very, very convenient. We've got deal calculators and software, so you don't have to worry about how to crunch the numbers. Don't need to worry about the legal work and the contracts. We've got templates for you. If you're in Eastern Canada and Ontario, we've got specific documents for Ontario, so you don't have to worry about that. We've got that covered for you. Dealmaker Blueprint, big 40,000-foot perspective of how the whole process works. So when you're going through a deal, you just have this up on your wall and you make sure that you're crossing your T's and dotting your I's. You got everything right. Stamp of approval deal review, just to make sure you're feeling comfortable about your deals. I'll double check them for you. And to get you up and started quickly, we've got a fast start guide and CD. So again, I encourage you to go to creativecashforcanadians.com. You can sign up for either the Creative Profits Club or you can invest in the Rent-Owned Cash on Demand system for Canadians. The investment for the Rent-Owned Cash on Demand system is $49.97. And you can go check that out at creativecashforcanadians.com. Don't worry, I won't consider that rude if you skip over and do that right now. So again, does this stuff actually work? I'm very happy to say yes, it does, and I've got proof. It's not just me. We've looked at several different examples of people just like you who are doing these kind of deals. Now, we all need a little push now and then to actually get what we say we want. So I want to just share a quick story with you. So for example, a few years ago, there were a group of us. We all saw that we were kind of chubby and we wanted to lose some weight. So we agreed to weigh in together every 6 months to hold each other accountable. Everyone who did that was successful in losing weight. I lost a lot of weight and I've kept most of it off, at least 20 pounds off for that time, so this definitely works. Having someone hold your feet to the fire is absolutely vital. So I want to be that person for you when it comes to creative real estate investing and creating the lifestyle and the income you want from real estate investing. And when you become a member of the Creative Profits Club, I will be that person for you. So in other words, I want to make it as easy as possible for you to say yes to this whole program. So as an incentive to saying yes today, here's what I'd like to do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to include my entire rent-to-own cash-on-demand system for Canadians absolutely free as a bonus when you enroll in the program today. That's right. This is a free bonus, $49.97 value, absolutely free when you enroll as a Creative Profits Club member today. You can go to the creativecashforcanadians.com to get started with that right away. So a reminder, you'll get my entire rent-own cash-on-demand system for Canadians absolutely free. That's a $4,997 value when you become a member today. How do you do that? Go to creativecashforcanadians.com and enroll right now. It's a secure online enrollment process. No problems there. We had a limit of 17 people for this new program for this month. We already had 6 people enroll from the original webinar we did a few days ago. So we got 11 spots left. This offer expires on Saturday, August the 3rd at 4 p.m. Pacific. So go to creativecashforcanadians.com. Remember the story I was telling you about my big brother Dan, hating his career. He's in his mid-50s. What is he going to do to replace his income fast? What did he do? He became a full-time creative real estate investor. He's got over 40 creative deals under his belt right now. He's creating cash flow like crazy. What he loves the most is he's now his own boss. And best yet, he's still working with investors, but now he's got control over the investment, and they are backed. Their investment is backed by something solid. It's not flimsy paper that can blow away like a mutual fund or a stock or a bond. This is real estate. It's something tangible. It's something that you've got so much more control over. Dan is absolutely thrilled. He's doing very, very well. In fact, just went last summer on a trip to Africa with my mom and his 2 daughters and his wife. They just got back from a trip to Europe. He sent both of his kids to Brazil. He's having a great time. He's really enjoying life. So here's a huge bonus. When you become a member of Creative Profits Club, you can bring a guest for free to any and all of our live training events and our mastermind sessions. So that means you can bring your spouse, your best friend, an adult child, a business partner, whoever's working with you. They'll love you even more for it. So again, creativecashforcanadians.com right now to enroll. So let's sweeten the pot a little bit more just to make this absolutely irresistible. So again, you're going to get my entire rent-own cash-on-demand system for Canadians included. That's a $49.97 value. You get to bring a guest to any and all of the live events. These events are 3-day events. They're easily worth $1,500 to $2,000 per person each. So putting a value of $49.97 on that is very realistic. I'm also going to include, because you're getting involved in creative real estate investing, my More Deals Now marketing system. These are all of the marketing strategies that I use to attract motivated sellers to me so I can make offers on their properties. Doesn't matter what kind of deals you want to do. There are strategies and ideas in here that are going to be just phenomenal for you. Not just ideas. I'm going to give you the exact templates I use, the exact materials I use to do my marketing. You're going to get all of that in More Deals Now. That's a $24.97 value included for free. We've got 3 of my best Creative Profits Club training programs all bundled together. That's going to be included as well, $9.97 value. And I also include a year of our Canadian Real Estate Profits Gold membership. That's a monthly newsletter with over a dozen of Canada's leading real estate experts and investors, plus a monthly audio CD interview sent to you every single month. That's a $599 value included with this. Total value over $20,000. Your investment is only $497 a month. All right. If you're interested, we can also talk about how you can get a prepay discount. Just check that option in the box at the checkout on our online secure order form at creativecashforcanadians.com. Now, you might be a little bit skeptical. We're talking about a lot of money. We're talking about how to create, chunks of cash, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 at a time. Outrageous cash flow, $400, $800, $1,200 a month from a single-family home. It does sound a little too good to be true. So, you might have noticed throughout the talk I've been talking about how you can create $100,000 or more in profits in a year or less. So, I want to not only take away your risk, I want to guarantee that you can actually do that. So here's my outrageous $100,000 in 12 months guarantee. Join the club, apply what you've learned, and if after 12 months you have not created at least $100,000 in creative real estate profits, just show me that you've given it a serious try, and I'll refund you everything you've invested in the club, no problem. Okay? So that means give it a good college try. Take what I'm teaching you, apply what I'm teaching you, use the resources and the support that we're giving you, take the training I'm giving you, and if you aren't able to create at least $100,000 in creative profits in a year or less, show me that and I will give you all of the money that you've invested in the program back to you. Absolutely guaranteed. So again, I can talk about all the amazing benefits that you're going to get from creative real estate investing. I've shown you examples of what I've done. We've talked about what other people have done as well. Now it's your turn. Give it a try. You've got so much to gain. We can talk about the money, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 or more. There are many of my students who've left me in the dust with their success, but it's not just about the money you can make. It's about the difference you can make with your own life and, just as importantly, the lives of those that you care about. It's about the difference that you can make. It's also about finally starting to live life on your own terms. It's time for you to start creating the lifestyle and the income you really deserve, and do it sooner rather than later. This club may not be right for you. It might not. I might not be right for you. It might not be the teacher for you. But please do something. If you don't do this, at least have another plan. I've never seen a better solution than the Creative Profits Club. I'd love to have you join us as one of our elite members. Don't struggle. Don't reinvent the wheel. Why not join me and we'll do this together? Now, I haven't forgotten about the bonus. And to get this is super easy. We've been practicing raising our hands. So if you'd like to get all of the slides from tonight's show, it's easy. Just raise your hand. Show me that you want the slides, slides, and we will send you a copy within 48 hours. Okay, just raise your hands if you'd like to get the slides. That's how we know that you want. Okay, I see lots of hands going up. All right, raise your hands if you want to get the slides. Yep, okay, lots of hands going up. Good, you guys. All right, we can see who you are. We're going to do a screenshot of that so we know who to send the slides to. I want to thank you very much for being part of the call tonight. And again, go to creativecashforcanadians.com right now and become a club member via our secure online order process. All right, take care, God bless, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.